don't like this. Stop, please. Stop, storm. What would happen? So too in our lives, if you're passing through a storm, if you're passing through some difficulty, the only place you can go to where there is peace, and this is where you have to start to live from, is the eye of the storm. And in our lives, what that means is come to the self. Don't try to solve problems too quickly. First, solve yourself. And one of the things I heard when I was a child, and I always remember, that the way to deal with any adverse situation is first you stabilize yourself in your self-respect, in your peace. Do that first, and then look at the situation. First, visit the peace inside yourself, and then when you look at the problem, it will not seem scary. It will not seem bigger than you. So before problem solving, first comes self-solving. And you realize also, in fact, the problem is there, but it is not bigger than me. I am bigger than the problem. When you have this awareness or this attitude, then you deal with the problem with confidence, with faith, with positivity. Now, have you heard of something called Einstein's theory of relativity? Yeah? Well, there is another theory of relativity which is a little bit simpler. And it's a little bit like this. So let's say this here is you. And let's say this here is some problem. So it's a very simple question for you. So who's bigger? Problem who's bigger? Alright, so let's call that as scenario number 1. Let's say this is scenario number 2. Over here is the problem. Over here is you. So, simple question number 2, who's bigger now? I am bigger. So this is no longer a big problem for you. But the important question is this: what has changed? Has the problem changed? No. Problem is the same size. It's the same thing. But what has changed is you have changed. You have changed means you have grown. Now this just seems absurdly simple, but it is so important. Because the tendency we have whenever we come across a problem is immediately the mind starts to engage with it. What should I do? How do I deal with this? And we start pumping up the problem and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Then we start calling our friends, what should I do in this situation? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? So the more energy I'm giving to the problem, it is becoming bigger and bigger in my mind, and I am getting more and more anxious, worried, afraid. And then there is stress, there's tension, physical problems. So before engaging with, before trying to find a solution to the problem, first stabilize in your self-respect. What does it mean to grow? What does it mean you become bigger? Is your self-respect becomes very stable. Then you see the problem and you realize, okay, it's there. I'm not denying it, but it is not bigger than me. I will find a solution. Basically, five steps we pass through in this little process. The first thing is really to make the heart full. I will explain some more details, but when the heart is full, what happens is number 2, the mind becomes calm. When the mind is calm, the third thing is your intellect, your buddhi, becomes stable and clear. When your intellect is stable and clear, number 4 is that powers of the intellect begin to work properly. Now there are 2 main powers which our intellect has. These are essential for harmonious living. And those powers are the power to discern and the power to decide. If these 2 powers are working properly, we can find solutions to the problems. We can navigate a path through life. We know how to handle different personalities. And this then leads to the 5th step, is I'm able to find solutions. But when the mind is not calm, we become very anxious, or we panic, we become very nervous. And due to that nervousness and anxiety, or that cloud of emotion, the intellect gets blocked. Then you can't see things clearly. The intellect is the eye of the soul. When the eye can't see things clearly, we create scenarios which are unreal. Some call this as fantasized catastrophizing. What if this happens? What if she says this? What if the other happens? What if the world ends tomorrow? Like, we create all kinds of scenarios in our minds, and we cause ourselves a lot of anguish and suffering. And therefore, it's very necessary to step back and see, okay, what do I need to do in order to find the solutions? The mind needs to be made calm. And that's where meditation comes in. Now, the mind has been described as a child. Now, how many of you have children here? Why? Why do you have children? What do you like about children? Pure, okay. Pure. Innocent, yes. Okay. These are the good sides. Cute, lovely, pure, nice to play with. Is there another side as well? And it's for these reasons that it is said the mind is like a child. Of course, different children are different. Some are very good, some are a little bit naughty. But why we say the mind is like a child is because a child only knows what she or he wants, not what she or he needs. The parent knows what the child needs. The child will say, Mommy, get me this, Daddy, get me that, I want the other, this. And so the mind is like this too. And the mind has so many desires. The mind sometimes thinks irrationally. Or the mind holds on to something, doesn't let it go. The mind worries unnecessarily. And therefore, if the mind is like that, then the experience of life, which should be pleasant, there should be peace, there should be happiness, but instead we experience tension, some stress, some frustrations. So how to calm the mind down? We have to know what the mind really needs deep down and begin to supply that to the mind. What are the basic needs of the mind? The mind needs appreciation. The mind needs love. The mind needs respect. The mind needs peace. And when we practice simple meditation in our lives, we are supplying the vital ingredients of the mind which will help it to be calm. And it has been said the quality of your life depends upon the quality of your mind. So let's do this now. Before we go any further, let's do a little exercise just to experience visiting the peace inside ourselves. A simple visualization. Would you like to do this? Okay, so if you're in the chairs, please have your back straight and your feet flat on the floor. We'll have no music here. Do make sure your mobiles are closed if you have them. You can just let your hands rest gently on your legs. If you're holding something, just put it down for now. Be free. It's important to be alert but also relaxed, so that the body is not pulling your mind as we practice the meditation. So what I'll do is I'll guide you through a simple process, simple exercise, and you can close your eyes for this particular exercise. And so let's spend the next few moments just to be with myself. Let's just relax the body and also relax the mind. For these next few moments, I choose to leave the outside world outside, and I want to visit the peace which is within my own self. So when we do visualization, we use the power of images, because the mind thinks in pictures. And so firstly, just bring your attention in towards yourself, and bring your attention up towards your face, and bring your attention to the center of your forehead, and here at the center of the forehead, picture a small room. This tiny room in the center of your forehead This is your quiet room of peace. Just visualize this very pleasant, quiet room of peace in the center of the forehead. This is your private and personal space. Inside your quiet room, you feel very relaxed. This is the place where you can be yourself. Inside the quiet room, you are safe and secure. You can let go of your daily roles and responsibilities. You are free from the pressures and the demands of the outside world. Feel peace and the wonderful silence of your quiet room. And just allow your mind to absorb this atmosphere of tranquility, serenity. And as you do so, the thoughts begin to slow down. The mind becomes calm, relaxed, peaceful, quiet, and free. Just be with this feeling of peace in your mind for 1 minute. feel ready, then you can just open your eyes. So, how do you feel? Anybody feel a bit more relaxed? So, all problems finished? It's one thing to relax with a group of people like this. The aim, of course, is to stay relaxed. Even when you're out in the world, in the streets, in the shops, in the traffic, how to maintain that inner state of relaxation, even amidst chaos. And that's really where you can measure your progress. Now, we all like to go somewhere to a quiet place for a holiday, a quiet weekend away somewhere on a hill station or somewhere in nature. That's great, and we all need that from time to time. But our aim really as meditators is, how can I bring the hill station into my office or into my society? How can I carry the hill station in my mind and my heart, so that being at peace, being in the relaxed state, becomes natural for me once again? And for that we have to implement certain practices in our life, because the mind has developed some bad habits. And I often use the example of a stray dog, a street dog. Let's say, you like a certain stray dog and you want that dog to live in your house. You may bring the dog in the house and you may say, okay, now sit, be quiet. What will it do? It won't, because it is used to doing what it wants, where it wants, when it wants. It has the habit. So if you want it to live in your house, then you need to give house training, so it learns how to follow the rules of your house. In the same way, the mind has developed some habits over a lifetime, thinking too much, unnecessary concerns, or being too concerned about what other people think about me, or holding on to some memories which really are useless, or, planning the future too much all the time. Basically, overthinking has become a habit. And so if we want to break these habits, we need to implement certain practices in our day-to-day life, so those habits finish. And so one of the suggestions for the day is like this, that when you wake up in the morning, then before you engage with life, before you engage with anybody else, first engage with yourself. Even before you talk to someone, even before you check your WhatsApp messages. For some people, the smartphone is like an indispensable part of life. Some people would even consider it more important than an internal organ. They'd happily give up a kidney rather than lose the phone. But even more important than that technology is the technology of the mind. So a suggestion, when you wake up in the morning, you get fresh, you wash your face, make sure you're awake. Sit down with the thought, I am a peaceful soul. I am a being of peace. And visualize yourself as that soul energy, the star energy in the forehead. Just be with that thought. Be in that thought for a few moments. And as your concentration improves, you naturally want to stay in that longer and longer. If it's new for you, then start off with the baby steps. 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Gradually you'll find 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you want to do that every day. And why it's important is because the morning meditation is like charging your soul battery for the day. If you've charged your soul battery, then your natural tolerance power, forgiveness power, understanding power, patience power, all of these are elevated. So then during the day, when you are challenged by a situation or a person, you have the strength to deal with it. But if the battery is not charged, then we struggle with everything. So that's suggestion number 1, is start the day the right way. Second thing is, as you go through the day, try to do what we call as traffic control for the mind. Have you heard about this? Traffic control for the mind. Now, just as you have cars out there in the road, imagine the thoughts in your mind are like traffic, your thought traffic. The question is, how is the traffic up here? Is it smooth? Is it orderly? Is it flowing? Or is there a traffic jam in your head? Am I thinking of tomorrow I must do this? Yesterday this happened. She shouldn't have said that to me. He mustn't have done that. Thoughts going in all different directions creates a traffic jam. How is the traffic in Pune? Do you have traffic problems here? Yeah. How many people in Pune? How many population of Pune, 80 lakhs. That's quite a lot of people. Also Istanbul, where I live, is around 15 million people or so. And for some people, when they're driving in the road, they consider road signs and traffic lights to be only a suggestion. They say, for you it's a rule, for me it's just a suggestion. And so they do what they want. We know that one car parked in the wrong place can block 100 other cars. So how much time and energy is wasted because of that? In the same way, one negative thought, one waste thought can block my happiness, can block my creativity, can block my self-confidence. And that's why it's necessary to do this thing we call as traffic control for the mind. Well, that means you stop for about 3 minutes, twice in the day. You just go to your quiet room. You disengage from doing and you come to the being part. And if you do that, it's like you're clearing your mind of waste thoughts and waste emotions. You feel more stable, more balanced, more clear, and then you get back into your work or your meeting with a clear mind. So I would suggest, do one mid-morning and do another one mid-afternoon. Maybe around 10:30 in the morning, another one maybe like 2:30 in the afternoon. Find times which work for you according to your schedule, but try to stick to those times every day for 1 week as an experiment. And see how differently you feel at the end of that 1 week. And generally people report, I feel a lot more balanced, I feel my energy levels are higher, I feel less tired at the end of the day. One of the reasons for physical tiredness, is because the mind has been overactive during the day. So if we learn to conserve our thought power, it even impacts our physical health as well. So Morning, some soul battery charging. During the day, 2 traffic control practices. And then at the end of the day, how to put the mind to sleep. Now, the mind has a mechanism by which it works. Think, for example, of how you would close a computer. What do? Do you just pull the plug? No. If you pull the plug, then the next morning when you turn it on, it will punish you. It will say, computer was not closed properly, now we have to do all these checks. In the same way, the mind has to be put to sleep properly. Just as for the computer, you have to sign out, you have to log off, you have to switch off. So for the mind, one of the things you can do is you think that whatever happened today in the theater of life, whatever happened today in the theater of life, something good, something bad, something indifferent, or maybe I did something amazing, or maybe I made a very silly mistake. Whatever happened today, for today, the curtain has come down on today's performance in the theater of life. And you multiply everything by 0. Empty the mind of the thoughts of the day, allow the mind to be light, and then go to sleep. And you find how much more deep and restful the sleep is when also the thoughts have been put to one place. If you don't deal with the thoughts of the day, then they disturb the sleep. And usually the first thought in the morning is connected to the last thought at night. Now, in the old days, parents would read a pleasant story to children when they go to sleep. Do you still do that? Some of you maybe? Yeah? There is some sense there. The idea is that if the child goes to sleep with a nice, happy, peaceful story, he or she will have good dreams. You would not read a horror story to a child, would you? The same way, the mind is the child. I have to put it to sleep properly. And if I do this, then it is an act of respect to the mind. So how to wake up, how to go to sleep, and then during the day, how to break the habit of speeding by practicing traffic control. Try and implement these for 1 week. See how you feel when you do these. Now, let me just press the pause button there. So I've been talking for a while, and you've been listening. Is this all making sense for you? Is it useful? Can you apply in your practical life? Is there anything you'd like to say or ask before we move on a little bit? Okay, if there's no questions, it means one of 2 things. You know what I'm going to say. Either you understood everything perfectly, or... Okay. Alright, let's move on a little bit. So we have a little bit more time. There's a question there.
The technique which you told just now, that concentrate at the center of your forehead. Sometimes I do see that speck of light, but I then think, am I imagining it? how do I convince myself that it really exists over there?
Yeah, that's right, thank you. See, the whole of this meditation, which is called as Raja Yoga meditation, it's based upon the knowledge and understanding of the self. And one of the things that we study is we explore the question, who am I? And within that lesson, we come to this understanding that the soul actually resides in the center of the forehead, but it is a non-physical being. So we start with that fundamental belief that I am the soul, and I, the soul, exist within the brain. So once that belief is there, once I've accepted that, then it's easy to visualize it and practice it more deeply. And over time, people tend to report that they even have a sensation of being here in the center of the forehead. And it's a question of practice, of making it real. For me, it's like a diamond, a diamond which has been covered over by layers and layers of dust. And meditation is a practice of uncovering that diamond. So that's how I approach it. But first, the understanding is needed. And what I'd like to do is to share some ideas of how we've reached that understanding of who am I? This is the big question. The word meditation itself, do you know what this means? The word meditation? Yeah? Any ideas? Yeah, well, yoga, that's the meaning of yoga, which is part of what we do. But the word meditations comes from the Latin word medere. And medere means to heal. So meditation actually is a healing process. It's a healing of the mind. Now, a person may say, well, my mind is not sick, so I don't need to do meditation. But the truth is, the news is, you are sick. In fact, the whole world is sick today. Compared to the truly healthy state of the inner being, anger is considered a sickness of the soul. Ego is considered a sickness of the soul. Attachment, possessiveness is a sickness of the soul. So is jealousy and greed, fear, and so on and so forth. And so when we practice meditation, it's a return journey back to that inner purity, back to my own divinity. But as I mentioned earlier, we have to understand and explore this who am I question. And this enables us to touch upon what is the most important matter in the world today, and that is to understand our identity. Who am I? Let me start by asking all of you, who here works in education? Any educators here? Okay, there's a few. Any healthcare workers here? Anyone in healthcare? All right. Who here has a sister? Okay. Who was born in Pune? Well, not so many, huh? Who was born in India? Still not everyone. Who here is a human being? Should be everyone. If you don't have your hand up, I'm worried. Right? So, in terms of our identity, our base identities, we're all human beings. That's called our base identity. Then we have acquired identities on top of that. I am from this country. I am of this, work for this company. I am from this clan. I am from this family. I am da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. The problem today is we have forgotten our base identity and we have become stuck in the acquired identities. The human race is currently passing through a global identity crisis. That is the root cause of all problems in the world. And therefore, the beginning of the solution to any problem starts with returning to true identity. Whether it's personal problem, interpersonal problem, global problem, the beginning of the solution is understanding who am I. And so let's explore a little bit about that now. This will help us also to come to another meditation. So I'm going to use an analogy which we often use in various contexts to try to understand the self. So let's say over here you have an iceberg. And how much of an iceberg is visible above the surface? 25. Well, could be, but general figure is around 10%. Of course, Pune icebergs may be a little bit different. Yeah, but around 10%, just a small amount is visible above the surface, which means, of course, the majority is hidden below the surface. So let's say one particular day, the wind is moving in this direction, the sea is moving in this direction. So which way would the iceberg move? Yeah, it would go in this direction. In other words, the forces which are below the surface are more powerful than the forces above the surface. What is hidden exerts more pressure than what is visible. Or what you expect to happen, the opposite may happen instead. And human beings are also like this. What is visible above the surface is only a small part of the person. The majority of the person is below the surface. And we have to understand that. If I want my life to improve, if I want to grow as a person, I need to understand what this 90% is all about. So let's use this analogy to further explore the question, what is a human being? So we use the concept of pyramid. And the most obvious part of a person, the top of the pyramid, is the physical. So physical is just the external appearance of the person, how you appear physically. But if you know how somebody appears physically, it doesn't tell you so much about the person. The majority is below the surface. So let's go down a little bit more. Next level down is known as the social self. And so this is how a person's character is manifesting in behavior. Mannerisms, interaction, code of conduct. Just as the mirror reflects a person's physical appearance, the behavior and the actions reflect the character. And these two together, they make up around 10% of the person. And with most people, that's as much as you get to know about other people, which is not much. Right? Maybe some people you get to know 15, 18%, but for most people you only get to know 10%. And that's why there are people who have known each other for years, for decades, and suddenly one does something or says something which completely shocks the other. And he said, how can you say that? How can you do that? I've lived with you for 50 years. I thought I knew you. But no, you didn't. You only knew 10%. Right? So if you think you know someone really well, then think again. Or be ready for a surprise one day. And sometimes this can happen even with your own self. Now you may think you know yourself very well. There may be something that you would normally never, ever, ever do. But suddenly in some situation you actually do that thing. And afterwards you think, how could I do that? I don't know what came over me. So it means there are certain forces which are driving you in the subconscious, which are more powerful than what is visible, what is conscious. Or the opposite can happen. Sometimes there is something you have always wanted to do. It's been your dream, and everyone knows that's what you want. And one fine day, you are offered the opportunity. Would you like to do so and so? But from your mouth comes the words, no thank you. People say, why did you say no? This is what you want. At that moment, it's like your mind was gripped, maybe by some fears, anxieties, some beliefs you are carrying which you don't even realize you have. And those kinds of energies, they can sabotage our success in life and also our relationships. So if we want to really improve ourselves on every level, we need to go down here. Mostly when people want some change in life or some escape from stress, they make the changes here. They change something physically, they change their clothes, have a new set of clothes, they change their hair, change something physical. Or they change their friends, they start going to new places, different restaurant, something. But if we want real change, real improvement, we need to go down here. Would you like to go down here? Are you sure? This is a one-way journey. There's no coming back. Alright, let's explore what's down there. And here is the third level down here. The physical, the social. Then we're entering into the subconscious. Third area here is your emotional self. So that's to do with the way you feel, your emotions and your moods. Sometimes a person is in a good mood, sometimes in a bad mood. Sometimes the moods go up and down during the day. Something good happens, you're on cloud number 9. Something bad happens, you crash. Sometimes people say, I always wake up in a bad mood. I'm just not a morning person, yeah. What does that mean, morning person? Don't talk to me before I have a strong cup of chai. But where does that mood come from? It's not just chemicals, it's something more than that. And so understanding what is the basis of my emotional condition, and the basis of all of that, the basis of the whole pyramid, is what is down here. So what do you think comes here? Subconscious, well, both are subconscious really. But the most basic part of a human being is what we are calling as the spiritual self. But we need to understand what we mean by these words. So let's just summarize. Physical has to do with your appearance. Social is to do with your behavior. Emotional is to do with your moods. And spiritual, essentially, is to do with your sense of identity. In other words, how do you see yourself? In other words, who are you? How are you answering the question, who am I? Now, you may not be answering it consciously, but you are answering it subconsciously. And that answer which you have is the basis of your entire life experience. Hence, it has been very wonderfully said, you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are, according to who you think you are. That's why there is a great need to explore identity. Let's look at a model of identity to see how we have created identity, how we have misunderstood identity, and then we'll look at what identity really means. So what do we do? As soon as a person is born, and as they go through life, what we tend to do is we throw labels. All right, okay. So right from cradle to grave, from birth to death, what we do is we throw labels at each other, and we also acquire labels ourselves. Let's look at some of these labels which we use. What's the first label that we usually give to a person when somebody is born? Name. Anything before name? Yes, okay. Yeah. So we say, okay, it's a girl or it's a boy. So then on the basis of that, well, we give a name. And what are the other labels that also come along? Of course, there are many, many. But here's another one which comes along. Another is the nationality. Yeah. Another one comes along as the religion label. These two are very much together. There's another one is the job label. Let's say this person, she or he gets a job, and so there's a professional label. Yeah, this person may become somebody's wife, somebody's husband. Okay, and then maybe a mother or a father. in some position in some club or organization or society, maybe let's say a president of the organization, and so on and so forth. Many other labels are acquired. So what happens? Well, there are 3 stages that we pass through when it comes to this labeling. The very first step is what we say is the stage of acquiring. You acquire that label, which is somebody just says, okay, you're from this country, you work as a doctor or a cook or a mechanic, or you are the mother of so and so, you are this or that. At that level, there is no problem. I'm just simply acquiring the label. It's a way of having some coordinates in life. But what happens after you begin to live with that label? Then we reach stage 2, which is where the problems start. Stage 2 is where you begin to identify with that label. And that's where everything begins to go downhill. Why? Because whatever is your sense of identity is going to shape and affect your emotional state. Remember the last diagram? We looked at the spiritual self. On top of that is the emotional self. So for example, let's take the job. Your first day in that new job, you very much have the awareness, I work as bank manager. So here is me, here is my job. After some time, you begin to place that label inside your awareness. And you begin to say, I am a bank manager. Now, are you a job? Or do you do a job? Do a job, huh? So you're not a doctor, you're not a teacher, you're not a bank manager, you're not any of these, you work as. But when you identify with the label, at that moment you have moved away from your true spiritual identity. This will affect your emotional state. So what's happening is I'm beginning to place this into my awareness. Now what happens if one day, after some years, what happens if I lose the job? How will I feel? Yeah, I may feel sad. I may feel even a bit lost. I may feel, but who am I now? Because I based my self-identity, my self-esteem on something outside of me. The thing which is outside of me can and will change. And when that happens, it will shake me on the inside. Whatever you identify with, you are giving your power to that thing. And when that thing changes or finishes, you will shake. Let's look at another one. Let's look at nationality. Who here is an Indian? How many Indians here? Are you Indian? Or is your nationality Indian? You have a passport. On your passport it says Indian. Are you a passport? No. It says on the passport Indian. But what we have done is we put the passport in our awareness, and I become a passport. And we see you, we say, which passport are you? No, I have a passport, but I am not a passport. I am much, much, much more than that. But we know how people identify so much with their nationality. So if somebody's nationality is insulted, they get very upset. They get very angry, very aggressive, and they're ready to fight with you. And this is so ridiculous. This is part of the ego disease that we have in the world, where we have mixed up I am from I have. There is being, there is doing, there is having. The being part, which is the sacred part, has been polluted by the doing and the having. This is the condition of humanity today. So our emotions get shaken up when what I am identified with is threatened in some way. In fact, with all of these, are they permanent or are they changeable? Changeable, right? What about this one? This one as well? Does that change? Some say no, some say yes. How? Yes. Okay. Okay. There's two things here. One is, of course, it's a physical reality. If you are somebody's mother or father, you will be for life, even when your son or daughter is 50 or 60. But the other thing is, this is also a relationship word. And relationships are always evolving, always in a state of change. So for example, when you are, let's say you are 30 and your child is 5, there's a certain dynamic in the relationship. You are mother or father and your child is 5 years old. But when your child is, let's say, 40, you are 65, your child may be like a mother or father for you. And so the relationship is changing. So it's also important to be aware, even mother, father, husband, wife, son, daughter, these are roles that we play in life. It's not that I am that, it's the role I play. And what sometimes happens is the case of the teenager. Some of you maybe are experiencing this or have experienced. When your child is a teenager, difficult times, right? Because teenager is no longer a baby, but not yet an adult. And the teenager is also confused. And you have to know that, okay, I have to a little bit step back in the relationship. But if you're very identified with, no, I am his mother or I am his father, and you continue to treat that teenager as a child, as a baby, you say, stop treating me as a baby. I'm not a child anymore. I can do things myself. I can go where I want. So the wise parent will know, as the child is going through an identity change, I have to step back a little bit. The nature of the relationship is now evolving. But if I'm too identified with being mother or father, then it creates problems in the relationships. Life is a river. What do rivers do? They flow. If you stand still in the river, what will you feel? What will you experience? Pressure, the pressure of the current. So when we experience emotional pressure in relationships with others, it means I'm not flowing properly. Some way, I'm trying to hold on to my perception of what I want someone to be. And I'm feeling a little threatened when that person is evolving or changing. It's important to know, okay, in fact, I'm not mother or father, it's the role I play. So with all of these changeable labels, you can change your name, some people change their religion, Husband, wife, does that change? Yeah? That also changes? Position, yeah, in an organization, you can lose that. This one here? Well, again, there's two things there. One is it's a biological definition. Most people don't change that. But the other thing is also it has a cultural definition. So to be boy or girl in Pune is very different to be boy or girl maybe in the Middle East somewhere or in some other country. So the definition of what it means in terms of behavior, how you interact, how you dress, how you do all that, those cultural definitions are different in different parts of the world. So even that is a changeable label in the sense of cultural definition. Stage 3 of this malaise is we reach the point where we form an attachment. So you become attached to certain labels very deeply. And where there is attachment, there will necessarily be some kind of suffering at some point. So what has happened to us generally as human beings is we have placed all these labels and many, many others into our awareness. And this is called as spiritual pollution. And spiritual pollution is at the core of every other kind of pollution in the world. When we live within this system of identities, this is what is known as the ecosystem. Living within this set of identities, that's the ecosystem. And where there is ego, there will naturally be ego-based emotions, such as fear, tension, anxiety, nervousness, shame, guilt, remorse, and all the others like anger, revenge, jealousy, and so on. These are all ego-based emotions. If we wish to be free from them, we need to explore who am I behind all of these things. All of this is who I am not. So the question is, then who am I? Is this making sense to you? Yeah? If I take away the labels, if I remove all these identities, then what is left? Who am I behind all of these masks that I wear in the daily life? So now we come to that point, just to the final understanding of the true self. So there are many words used to describe that. We can say the consciousness, or we can say the inner being, we can say the true self, or this person needs to have a more of a round face. How's that? So it's very simple. Truth is always simple. The truth is, I am a spiritual energy. And as you know, we use the word Atma, we use the word soul. But here's the difference. You don't have a soul, but you are a soul. This difference in one word makes the world of difference. Generally, the way we live is I am a body, and inside me there is a soul. But it's the opposite. I am the soul, and I express myself through the body. So this body is called Yogesh, but that's not my name. That's the body. That's the name of the body. And one day, I, the soul, I, the spiritual energy, I will leave this particular body called Yogesh. And then what will happen to this? It'll disintegrate. And some people burn it, some people bury it, some people give it to the birds to eat. They do different things. But what's important is as I go through life, let me live as a soul. That's what makes the difference. This is called soul consciousness in life. This is meditation in action. Let me live in the awareness I am a spiritual energy. I am a soul. I am a peaceful soul. And here are the basic qualities of every single soul. Most basic one is peace. Just as water is wet, fire is hot, the nature of the soul is peace. Then there is also the quality of love, that caring, sharing energy, which we call as love. And then there is the expressive quality, which is called as joy. So these three things come together they constitute inner strength. Inner strength or inner power. So when we say somebody is a powerful person, she's very strong, he is very strong, what it really means is that these basic qualities of peace, love, and joy are emerged. That's what makes a person emotionally stable. But when these three qualities are less in us, then we become very needy. And we say, oh, be careful what you say to her, she's very emotional. Or be careful about him, he can easily break, his heart can break very easily. Why he is so weak? Because the peace, love, and joy have not been emerged. So inner strength is the result of emerging the divine qualities of peace, love, joy. And then there is also the quality of purity. It's that innocence which we mentioned earlier, innocence, that cleanliness that you see in a little child. It's that thing which we all find so attractive, that purity. Now, meditation is the process of emerging these qualities from inside. Because the good news, as we mentioned earlier, is this is a return journey. All of these qualities are within every soul in seed form. But those seeds have to be watered in order for them to germinate. So when we practice meditation, which we're going to do now to finish off, what I'm actually doing is I'm watering the seeds of divinity within myself and giving them a chance to emerge, giving them a chance to germinate. Then it's a question of maintaining that awareness as you go through day-to-day life. The more powerful you are, the smaller the problems become. TK? Alright, okay. So let's now finish off with a little meditation to experience this thing called soul consciousness. And do so. If you have your eyes open, you need a point of focus, something to look at, so your eyes are not wandering around. So find something to focus on, or if you wish, you can just even look here at the center of my forehead, which is the location of the soul energy. If you have your eyes closed, then of course you have to be attentive not to drift off to sleep. Okay? Alright, so let's start. So we just spend these next few minutes just to be with myself. So for this next few moments, I want to experience my true self. So I start with the question, who am I? Who am I behind the roles I play every day? Who am I behind the masks that I wear in daily life? There is more to me than my roles, my responsibilities, my relationships. When I look in the mirror, I see the reflection of this physical body. But there is more to me than simply this. So I ask myself, who am I? I bring my attention up towards my face. I bring my attention to the center of the forehead. And here, I picture the star of peaceful light. Just visualize this star of peaceful energy in the center of the forehead. From the star, waves of peaceful light are radiating in all directions. this wonderful star of peaceful light.